Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Town of Oakville's Council, and I invite everyone to stand and join Council in O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, I see we have no regrets this evening. Council, do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? I don't see any, not even from the usual suspects, so you can record none. Council, you have before you the minutes of many previous meetings of Council in the agenda. Are you satisfied with them? Councillor Duddick is moving confirmation of all of the minutes before you. May I have a seconder? Councillor Knoll, is that your hand? Thank you. All in favor? Oh, we have hands up. Do we want changes?
No. Separation. Yes, Mr. Mayor, if we could separate from the Community Services Committee meeting.
Mr. Councillor, we're not there yet. We're just doing minutes.
I'm so anxious to get this opened. My apologies.
Your eagerness is noted. So shall I call the question on the minutes? We're voting on the minutes. All in favor of the minutes? Very good. The minutes are confirmed. Now, we have no public presentations, but we do have delegations concerning matters within the agenda before us, including, I believe, some of the standing committee reports. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first delegation?
First delegation is IU and Judith Elaine, here to speak to item 4 on this evening's agenda, the request to amend the provincial policy on autism IBI therapy.
Good evening. Please come down to the front, and Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening. Mayor Roberts. Sorry, my English is not my first language, part of my poor English.
No problem. And members of council.
My name is Athena.
And I'm Judith Elaine.
I have been living in Oakville for past 10 years. I'm a single mom for 2 young children. One is on a spectrum. Imagine the difficulty in my family. But Sophia is an amazing child with a great smile through these 3 years waiting before IBI. So I will have Judith to let you know what is IBI.
I'm not sure if council or the mayor knows that, that there is a definite difference between ABA and IBI. So we'll just cover it just a little bit because we won't go into much detail. One of the reasons why the families are so upset is that it's the amount of hours that they would get and the intensive behavioral that they would get with the IBI. ABA is more of a large group setting. A psychologist is not necessary. It can be run by a therapist, and it deals with things that the children every day would go through. But intensive behavioral is things like speech, things that we take for granted, going to the toilet, learning how to eat properly, learning how to follow instructions, how to be polite, how to have conversations, communication, things like that. So one of the greatest things is there's over close to 3,000 families that are not going to have that. And the government, as you know, has put a complete stop on. And Athena's family have been waiting for 3 years, and she received her letter that there will not be any IBI for Sophia. And Sophia is only partially verbal. So she can't communicate how she feels or, what's going on in her own life. So part of this is Athena's way of trying to communicate the complexities and the difficulties as a resident in the town of Oakville. So I'll let Athena continue.
I see my daughter's struggle in daily routine, and people would never understand it until they are in the same boat. Lack of communication, my daughter, Sophia, could not able to tell me how she feel. So that's why every time when we had outgoing community practice, such as swimming pool, park, taking a public transportation, library, every single time she had a difficulty such as waiting in the line and the Dyson hand blower in the washroom and lights, noise, and those are the factor trigger her, or people call it misbehavior, not because of her misbehavior, because of sensory issue and cause her. And plus, she cannot tell me. That's why she totally melted down in the public. And then all I want to, the public aware, the autism awareness, and especially the staff be more supportive instead of give me a judgmental look. Yeah, so.
So one of Athena's ideas is that, council think about an education program, perhaps for all employees who do work within the town of Oakville. And it's not a difficult request that she's asking. She's just asking that when she does go to any of the Oakville public places, that it's the employees that have a better understanding. Of course, we would love a worldwide understanding, wouldn't we?
Right.
But we do realize that even though there is what you would consider to be education, a lot of people are unaware and they're unable to understand why the child is behaving the way they are. So a lot of times, because she doesn't speak, her English is great as far as I'm concerned. I think her English is fantastic. But she doesn't always understand that the wordage that is used by people around her. And I think education is the key to understanding children and families.
Right.
Okay, continue.
The primary symptom of autism, including problems with the communication and social interaction, as well as repetitive interests and activities. People with the ASD may interpret things very literally and be quite rigid in terms of following rules and habits. Strict adherence to patterns of behavior or rituals is common, and activities and interests may be limited. Sudden changes in routine, setting, or expectation can cause great anxiety. Sometimes large crowds or dealing with strangers can be upsetting as well.
So this goes again to the education program that she is asking for. There is something that we need to look at for a child like Sophia, a program that the town offers for children with disabilities, especially like autism, goes so quickly. There are so little programs offered. So these children sometimes never get a chance to experience summer camp or things that any child, neurotypical child, does get to enjoy. Team sports, anything like that. They do rely on grassroots programs that we do offer, but there is only so much we can offer as well. So her request again comes to perhaps, more programming available within the town, Accessibility is, again, another huge thing that we would like to talk about, and inclusivity, that when we do offer programs, if we're offering programs for this many children without disability, could we maybe look at expanding the amount that we offer for those with disabilities? We understand that it is complex. We understand because we live it every day. As we say, we're in the trenches, so we do understand that. But summer should be something that a child can experience and at least remember going to these type of summer programs, and that should be accessible to all children. But like I say, if you actually look at your programming, it's very little children. If you do a count, you'll be very surprised at how many are actually accepted. So, continue.
After knowing the government input $333 million to help all ASD families by eliminating those kids above age 5, this is devastating to parents and in fact school communities as well. Through outgoing community practice.
Just stop there for a second.
Yeah. Go on, sorry.
The schools, we understand that the town can't help us in that, so we do understand that. But with this cuts to the IBI, I want you to, to have some sort of realization it is going to have an effect on everything around us. Because basically what they're doing is they're saying to the families, there is a 2-year waiting period for the new enhanced ABA. 2 years. 2 years of vital learning opportunities for these children. So, why we come to the town now is to say to the town, great, we have 2 years. Could we as a town, do anything to help these amazing kids? And we have quite a few children living in Oakville on the spectrum, never mind with disabilities, because we're trying not to just focus on one. We do want it to be inclusive, that it is all disabilities. So her request is that, that we make an understanding of how difficult it is. Sophia currently goes to what school?
She's attending St. James.
Yeah.
As a JK student. Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why she was cut from the list, right? She's in JK. And her teacher says she's doing really well, but she is partial verbal. Yeah. And the IBI would have helped her with simple things like, putting on your clothes,
like
your shoes,
basic routine,
eating,
right.
How to sit, how to behave, things like that. Yeah. So I think her appeal is for the inclusivity. I think to keep that awareness there from a town's perspective, that we can, even offering an education program would help.
Right.
Because as much as we think we understand it, you only truly understand it when you're in it. Yes, anything else?
I think, I made my point.
Thank you very much for a very good use of your time and for sharing your information. Have you had a chance to look at the resolution that we're considering in the item that you're speaking about?
We did have a little look, didn't we?
Yeah.
And are you comfortable with that resolution?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your information. Are there any other questions? Councillor Lischina, Councillor Elger?
Thank you very much for coming in here today. Judith Elaine, what is your background with respect to working with...
To Athena. We run a grassroots association called Project Autism.
So do you have a professional designation or with respect to working with autistic children?
No, nothing
okay,
professional
so you've observed,
from that. I have a child with autism.
I see.
Yeah.
So Sophia is 4 years old now.
She's just turned 5.
Yeah, she will be
just
5.
turned
She will be 5
and
in
hence
August.
you received that letter.
Yes.
So she was on the wait list, you said, for 3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
So could you, either one of you explain, so when you get onto a wait list, you get there by being assessed by a professional?
Psychiatrist or psychologist, yes.
Right, so you can't be on the wait list otherwise, just by your family doctor indicating, I think your
No.
child might have that?
No,
Oh,
you cannot.
So all those children on the wait list have been assessed?
Yes, they're assessed and they've been diagnosed with autism.
Okay.
Yes, that's
And so
correct.
she's been waiting for 3 years and obviously isn't going to receive the IBI. So
Not
in
at
the
all.
meantime, could you just quickly summarize what was done with the child in order for her to be able to go into JK, or she wasn't far along on the spectrum?
You mean what will be done in the IBI? It's actually
No, not
individualized.
what happened in the last 3 years that she's been waiting?
Oh, shame. Yes, Athena, whatever Athena could afford, any program she could afford, she
Yeah.
would do for her.
Well, we did pay everything
By pocket.
by
Yeah.
our private pocket, like ABA and OT and speech.
Yeah, because
and
she needs it all, right?
Yeah,
she needs
she
that.
needs all the service and then I mean the therapist. And then now she's partially verbal. She can do requests.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah,
You would be
yeah.
so amazed at how much she's grown.
Yeah.
That's
she-
wonderful to hear. So were you able to access those services? I understand you've paid out of pocket, but were you able to access them yourself?
From a
Because-
private perspective.
Right.
Yes, there is a private market for it, of course. It's offered everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of money, yeah. Autism makes a lot of money. It really does.
Councillor Elgar, then Councillor Knoll.
I'd like to thank you for coming tonight. And last week, all of members of council received an email from our MPP, Kevin Flynn.
Yes, we know Kevin very well.
And well, my question was, like, have you met with
Yes.
with MPP
Many
Flynn?
times.
Because he has stated in his email
Yes.
that no child will be left without service.
Wow.
And he said there has been some misunderstandings, and I'm just wondering, have you recently been
Spoken
able
to
to
him.
meet with him where he can bring in like the health professionals to discuss this new opportunity that the government is, like, it's over a $250 million, it's
Right.
333 million, which they're
Right.
going to put into it.
That has no specific plan, councillor. There is no plan, no written plan. There is nothing there that you can see.
Well,
It's
I think-
all in hearsay.
Like, I'm just wondering if you, I think it probably would be a very good idea if you set up a meeting with the minister.
Oh, no, we see the minister quite often.
Okay.
Yeah, Kevin knows us very well.
And does Kevin, like, do
We're a
you,
very supportive community. That is one thing that's amazing, is we really try to work with Kevin, not against him. That's why in our Oakville community, you don't see riots, you don't see parents out boycotting, because in Oakville, Project Autism is a huge part of it. So yes, we talk to Kevin honestly, openly, always. Same with Tracy McCharles and her office. So Jessica is our contact there. We talk to her as well. But, you know, they can only give you so much, whatever is designed, and there is no plan designed as of yet. They talk about it, it'll be applied, it'll be intensive,
yeah.
but that's it.
When I
And it'll
read-
take 2 years to come into effect.
But in the meantime, well, when I read that he said no child will be without service, like, I guess that's for myself. I'd need more information from him
Exactly.
to help. But I realized tonight, you're not really talking about that on the property. You are
No.
talking about this,
We would like
this
to talk
town,
about the
council
town.
here,
Yes.
which is totally different than what you're talking about is
Yes.
totally different than the motion we have before
Right.
us. So I'm really
But
pleased.
the motion is fantastic, but we would like to address it from a town perspective. That is why we came. We know that you're limited. We understand that. You can ask Rob. We've been to see him too, you know. He knows us really well.
Yeah.
But the truth is, from a town's perspective, the inclusivity is what we're asking for. You know, washrooms, believe it or not, are a huge issue for our kids. There is most families that have children that are nonverbal can't send their son to a washroom without them. So they're standing on the outside calling, Jonathan, are you done? Jonathan, why? Can you please check? They can't even have a washroom that is a family washroom where they can go in. So yeah, there is a few issues
Well,
we could talk about.
You've really helped me tonight with what you said. It's not about the motion throwing stuff at the
'Cause
province.
there
It's
is
out-
nothing
it's
we
about
can
us
do
at the
about that
town,
currently.
maybe sending
Yes,
it back to staff to
exactly,
see what we can do.
exactly. We
I-
can
thank
try
you.
with the province, but you and I know, you know, that is just layers and layers, and
I
but we will
appreciate-
keep fighting for that.
No, thank
yes.
you.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate you
Councillor.
coming.
Thank you.
Councillor Knoll.
Thank you very much, and I too want to thank you for coming forward, and I'm over here. Hello.
Sorry,
Yeah, no
sorry,
problem.
I had to go through all the names.
I'm a ventriloquist, I'm friendly. So thank you for, thanks. Thank you for coming forward to tell us about your situation.
Yes.
And A couple quick questions. First of all, there's some nomenclature thrown around in the motion I don't understand. I apologize for not doing the investigation ahead of time. What is the difference between DFO and DSO, delivery of services?
Do you know much about that?
I would say,
I'm afraid my son is 12. We didn't even have ABA or IBI. So we've fallen off the list,
Right.
which is
so DFO is a direct
Funding.
funding service.
Ah, yes.
A DSO is,
through service providers.
yeah, through the
Okay,
service
got
provider.
it, got it.
So
Yeah.
what's the difference to you and
Oh,
your child?
huge, huge.
Well,
huge.
it all depends on the parent's choice. Like, for example, if the old program run as before, I would choose DFO. First of all, from the money-wise,
And individualized.
yeah, individualized.
Because
and-
Sophia will need occupational therapy.
Right.
She'll need cognitive therapy.
Right.
She will need things that the government is not going to cover.
So the DFO provides a more
A
portable,
more portable, more individualized
so they can choose,
method.
so the family and the
Exactly.
caregivers can
Right.
choose the
Exactly.
best course of action. Okay,
Yes,
that makes
yes.
perfect sense.
And the DSO is specific service providers, so cutting out a lot of the private service providers as well. Whereas DFO would give them the choice, because if I'm privatized, I would only offer $30 an hour versus $50 an hour versus, each one is different.
Great, I understand. So, and that's the next question I had for you. I've heard a number of families talk about the extreme cost of providing these services or accessing these
Right.
services on a direct pay basis. Can you just share some of that information? Because right up to this point, it's mostly,
much it is
it's
costing,
mostly hearsay as to what that cost is. Is it,
So more or less for Sophia,
my family is fortunate enough because my parents,
they help her.
Okay.
Yeah.
my parents help me.
Her parents help her. Yes.
And because my parents,
Yes.
my daughter can speak right now, and she can call my name, so I can give you the figure. It's like 50,000 a year.
how much?
Yeah.
50,000.
50,000.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, for intensive behavioral therapy, you're looking at about
Yeah.
22 to 25 hours
I can tell
a
you
month.
more than
More
that.
than that, even.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah, OT per hour, they charge $180. And ABA therapists charge $40 per hour.
IBI is about
I-
130.
Yeah, IBI it's 130 per hour.
Yeah.
And then speech, 130
130,
per hour. So you
130.
just add those number, and the time,
Cognitive therapy is 130.
yeah, and then just
Yeah.
count those number
The-
times
like I
hours.
said, it's a business, there's a lot of money to be made, which we should be looking at from a provincial level. That needs to be addressed as well.
Right. So, I mean, obviously, your parents are obviously wonderful people that they would do that, but other people would have to make a decision between
Houses.
housing and taking care of their children.
Food.
Okay.
Yeah,
We've heard of a lot of families that are using
Yeah.
the food bank now, so thank goodness for Oakville's amazing accessibility to food and to products, natural products. So a lot of them have signed up for the vegetable boxes that they receive per month. Otherwise, we're looking at problems like that from a community perspective, from a grassroots, where we have to always offer food to the children, which shouldn't happen, but it happens. It happens way more than what we would like it to happen.
So now I don't have an expert to ask this question to, but I'm curious why 4 is the cutoff age for the IBI program.
We
Is there a
haven't
clinical
actually
reason?
figured that out. No, actually, a lot of
that's the-
psychiatrists are going to disagree with you, and a lot of IBI trained therapists will disagree that point. There are some that say yes, early intervention is fantastic. They are right. But to cut off at 5, you must imagine, even just a neurotypically developing child develops at their own pace, right? They're individualized. They can develop slowly, they can develop fast, but they're developing individually. Same with children with autism. Sometimes they only develop at 7. What do you do then at 7? There is nothing for you at 7, but your child is only willing to speak at 7.
So is there any funding, are there any funding envelopes at all past 4 for any aspect of
There is talk from the ministry. We just received a phone call
today?
last week.
Is there anything today for?
No.
So there's nothing?
No.
So
No.
after 4, you're totally 100% on your own?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to turn to what Councillor Elgar was talking about a second ago, and you mentioned in your presentation, that is your concerns. I'm not diminishing the need to send a clear message to the province here, but I do want to talk about what maybe we can help with here at the town.
That would be wonderful.
So the question I have for you is, you suggested the idea of having opportunities for our staff to be trained on how best to
Yes.
serve the needs. Do you have examples of communities where this happens, so we can maybe look at
Yes,
some
there's
best
lots.
practices?
We can send
Could you
that
send those?
information.
Yeah.
Of course we
Yeah.
can.
Send that information
Yes, we would
along.
love to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think that's all my questions. I do want to say that I chair the library board on behalf of my colleagues and the people of Oakville, and Councillor Grant serves on the library board too. I heard you mention the library, so I'm going to commit to you that we'll take this to the library
we
board
would
as well.
love that. We would
Because
love that.
you mentioned the Dyson hand blowers and that sort of thing. I operate a business, and I know I had somebody complain that the Dyson
It's
our
huge
hand
for
blowers
them.
are scary.
Huge, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for
so
your
much.
presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Grant?
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm haunted by your comment that there's a lot of money to be made off of autism. And I think Councillor Knoll covered a lot of the concerns that he and I were sharing a few minutes ago. But just to bring it to more of a human level, your daughter Sophia outgrew the wait list. And you say that there's no new plan, but from what I read, you will get a one-time fee of $8,000 now that she's 5 years old. Given the cost, just to bring it to a human level, how long is $8,000 going to last you?
So do the figure 8,000 times, divided 40, divided
Well-
20, so basically.
For IBI, he's
Yeah, for
talking.
IBI.
So it's 140, so about 8 weeks,
Yeah,
So-
2 months it'll be finished.
2
So
months.
just by the fact that she was on a large wait list and outgrew,
Yeah.
she's now
Yeah.
stuck with only 8 weeks left of.
8
Yeah.
weeks, that's
Yeah.
it. That's it. Maybe you can tie your shoes. She'll learn how to tie her shoes in 8 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I beg your pardon. Councillor O'Meara?
Thank you very much, and thank you again for coming and sharing your story with us. Have you, did you read the Autism Spectrum Disorder Clinical Experts Committee's recommendation as to what the Ministry of Children and Youth Services based their program on? Have you had a chance to read over that?
Yes, we've
Yeah,
read
we
it.
did read it.
And you're aware that part of the recommendation is actually to change IBI to EIBI, early intensive behavior intervention. So not necessarily getting rid of the intensive behavior intervention, but changing it to prioritize early recognition, and from 2 to 5, the EIBI, and then from 5 to the years of almost 19 years old, that continuum of care. You've read that?
We have read that.
So I guess, are you relieved at all in the fact that there's something going to be going forward for the next 10 to 15 years for your daughter?
I think for Athena, it's great that we can read that. However, there is actually nothing in plan.
No, well, I mean, there's 10 recommendations that the expert committee.
Only starting from 2018.
Yeah.
And even the and we are so thankful that our young families are going to have that opportunity. Don't get us wrong. Our newly diagnosed children, fantastic. But we're asking about those children that have been waiting for 3 to 5 years. We're asking about those that have a 2-year gap.
So if we had some guarantee from the ministry that they would help to deliver whatever the assessed level of intervention was that your children needed, that would address a lot of your concerns?
Part of the IBI is the assessment. So a lot of these children haven't even had that yet.
Right, and I think that's one of
That
the
is part of the
problems.
problem.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So going from one waiting list, so we've cut 3,000 children off the waiting list, and now they will go on another waiting list to wait for whatever they're given. I think they're given, how many hours were you given? Have you been to that meeting yet with Kerry's Place?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
Athena's family haven't been contacted. Kerry's Place will contact them and let them know that they can either accept the $8,000 or accept the ABA program that they have instilled, and they need to sign a contract.
And one of the things that we're blessed with here in Oakville is going to be the new Erin Oak Kids Treatment Center
Yes,
up by.
we've seen it,
And
yeah.
have you worked with them? Have you been involved with them in the past few months over this process?
Yeah, during waiting period of time, yes, my daughter into the they call speech program, And basically, it's like 2 hours per week, and it lasts only 8 weeks. It's to her, it's not enough. Yeah, that's the controversy. The whole point about IBI. So she need those hours, 20 to 25 hours per week. Per week. That's how we pull her up from nonverbal to partially verbal now.
And if you actually look at the numbers, Councillor, you'll see that the new programs that are coming into effect are not those hours. They're actually minimal hours, and they're group settings, Councillor. They will not deal with the individual child's needs. They will only deal with it from a group setting.
So even in the EIBI, or just?
Even in the EIBI. It'll be education programs for parents, and the ministry is saying that they're going to make some changes, but as we say, you know, it's all in the motion of whether it is or whether it isn't.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much for being with us and sharing your information. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you for your time.
Madam Clerk, would you call the next delegation, please?
The next delegation is Dave Smith and Diane Reed, here to speak to item 2 on the Administrative Services Committee agenda regarding National One Design Sailing Academy.
Welcome, sailors. Council looks forward to your information.
Hello, my name is David Smith. I'm one of the founders of the National One Design Sailing Academy. I'm here tonight with Diane Reed, and Diane has just recently taken over as president of our company. We're very lucky to have Diane on our team. In addition to sailing the single-handed mini Transat race, a race that takes sailors across the Atlantic Ocean in a 20-foot boat all by themselves, she was the first Canadian woman to be chosen to lead a team of 18 non-sailors in a 40,000-mile race around the globe called the Clipper Around the World Ocean Race. So we're really lucky to have Diane taking over the reins, the day-to-day reins of our company. There's a lot to say about National One Design Sailing Academy. Tonight, however, we want to take a brief moment just to delegate and let you know just a little snippet about our company. We're a federally incorporated company, and we are just currently entering our 4th year of business. Our head office is here in Oakville, and we're taking a different approach to boating education and services to boaters across the country. In July of 2014, many of you probably don't know, but Transport Canada enacted a new standard for recreational boating schools. This standard makes it much tougher for existing boating schools to operate. With the exception of small dinghy programs and dinghy camps, to put it simply, the RBS says that if someone pays to be on a boat, that boat is a commercial vessel and must be equipped and operated as such. It's no longer a pleasure craft. So as a result, many clubs, sailing schools, and programs are being forced to close down. Even the Canadian military closed down its sail training program. 1D Sailing, and that's what we've become known as, was the first school in Canada to meet the new standard and to be registered with Transport Canada as an RBS. We are now providing boating lessons to clubs and communities across Ontario. We're growing every day. We currently are the provider of keelboat training programs for Scarborough Bluff Sailing Club, Highland Yacht Club, Ashbridges Bay Yacht Club, the National Yacht Club, the Boulevard Club, Oakville Club, Bronte Harbour Yacht Club, and Newport Yacht Club. But what is really special about our program is that it's totally public. There's no membership fees, there's no gates, everyone is welcome. But we're much more than a boating school. We're also an event company. We provide corporate team building, for instance. We've hosted and will continue to host the Canadian Intercollegiate Association's Keelboat Championships. Last summer, we were fortunate enough to have Mayor Burton provide the welcome address to university sailors from all across Canada. We also host an event called the 1D Cup, and this is an opportunity for yacht clubs across Ontario to come to Oakville and to compete with their best sailors against each other to determine who's the best of the best. We have a multitude of different programs and not enough time to tell you all about it. I did want to point out to you, though, that we've already changed the landscape in Bronte. We believe that it's a really a nice, fresh picture, and we're creating new business for the existing BIA members. For instance, we are working with the local restaurateurs to combine sailing with an après dining experience at the top of the hill. What I'd like to do, we have 2 short videos, about 90 seconds each, that I'd like to play for you just to give you an idea, because I'm not sure that all of you know exactly where we are now located. And so if it's all right, I'd like to. Oh, it's not a touch screen. I'm too advanced. Sorry about that. Desktop. Okay. This video that we just watched was shot already this season, so that was an event about 2 weeks ago. This was a video, we were on CHCH morning, the morning show last year, and it sort of tells a little bit about our school. Oh, volume. You want to fix the volume for me, Mike? I think it is, eh?
Missing out one track. Just kill it.
Well, I'm sorry, that video is not playing. The audio portion is not playing.
Well, still, it's a very exciting looking experience out on the water, and I am having, just every time I see drone photography, as a former filmmaker, I'm jealous of modern technology, because we never had toys like that when I was in the business. What amazing shots you can get. Really brings it to life.
What was really enjoyable about that, I'm not sure if you noticed, that the water was turquoise. And I'm sure in this chamber, most times people come here and show you all the brown water coming down the rivers, but it's just, it is a beautiful picture. So if you have any questions, I'm Diane's here to answer all of your questions. We really just wanted to let you know we're doing some exciting things in Bronte, and we're really, really excited about the new business that we're bringing into the area, and that we're helping change the face of Bronte Road. And we now have an address, 14 Bronte Road, by the way, apparently. So.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. 14 Bronte Road is a premium address, and I hope that it serves you well.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Robinson has a question for you.
Your Worship, first of all, I would like to, on behalf of the BIA in Bronte, congratulate you and thank you for what you have developed down there up to this point. The question is this. For 2 years, I've been working with senior town staff in an effort to acquire what we call the Barb Greb lands just north of where you're operating. Are you in a position to work with us and help us acquire that waterfront?
Well, Councillor Robinson, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd very much like to see the town acquire that property. It's certainly not doing anyone any good sitting the way it is today. I think that the whole landscape of Bronte Harbour will change with the development of that property. You'll have more, I mean, it'll beautify it. It's come a long way. Cleaning up the brush and that has stopped the goings-on that have been going on at the bottom of the hill there for a while. You know, it used to be a hangout for kids to go down there, and I just think just clearing it out made a big difference. But if you want to continue the waterway, the walkway from the one end of the pier all the way around, that's the only way to get access to the inner part of the harbor. So if I can help out, I'd be glad to.
You're on for a coffee sometime.
Yes, and just, this is sort of unrelated, and I know the plans for the Metro building, which is also the Greb, originally the Greb building, are up in the air. But I think that there's a lot of future uses of that building. For instance, sailing schools and so on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robinson.
Any others? Thank you very much for your information.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Madam Clerk, the next delegation, please.
We have a delegation listed on the council agenda that has withdrawn, Alicia Xavier, but the next delegation on our addendum is Mike Pakowski, principal of Lynbrook School, and Chris White, assistant head of operations at St. Mildred School, here to speak to item 5 of the Community Services Committee agenda on annual school crossing guard.
Welcome, Mr. Principal. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of council. I'm going to try to bend down here. I feel like I'm speaking at school when the mic is low. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Mike Pakowski, and I am the principal of Lynbrook School. Amber Way, our head of school, wanted to be here tonight, but she is currently at the school running a report card workshop for the entire staff as we near end of year. But I'm happy to be here to talk about the crossing guard situation on Lynbrook Road, because this gives me an opportunity to advocate for the boys and the girls who walk and bike to school, as well as the neighbors in our community. When I was hired by Amber Way and the board of directors at Lynbrook prior to the school opening, Amber expressed to me the great importance that we needed to put into managing the safety of our students. Those of you who were on council when Amber brought forth her proposal for the school know the traffic concerns were at the top of council's and community's list of concerns. The traffic includes motor traffic, as well as bike traffic and pedestrian traffic. Thank you. Also, when Amber spoke at council, it had been the practice to have a crossing guard on Lynbrook Road at the time. And I'm sure this factor helped the local residents, and perhaps many of you feel more comfortable about the safety of the boys, the girls, and community members who would obviously be crossing the street. It is our goal, and we are sure yours as well, to ensure that all children crossing Lynbrook Road may do so safely under the direction of an official crossing guard. I did mention earlier that Chris White, who is the assistant head of operations at St. Mildred, he was hoping to make it, but he does have a commitment that obviously took him a little bit later. So I am speaking on behalf of both schools. So we have done our very best to ensure that Amber's promises to you and the local community are kept and traffic flows smoothly, safely, and efficiently while entering, passing through, and exiting our parking lot. Our buses are shared with SMLS to minimize bus traffic, and you can find Amber and/or me outside every day at pickup time, managing the traffic to ensure that students are kept safe and the cars keep moving. So far, we've had 2 traffic studies completed, and we've received a level A rating on both. And this fall, we'll be having another traffic study, and we definitely will do everything in our power to ensure we continue with that level A rating. As a school community, we are very pleased with how the drop-off and pickup of our students has been going, and in a further effort to minimize the congestion on Lynbrook Road between Lynbrook and St. Mildred's, we have put in policies in place where the brothers of the St. Mildred's girls are dropped off at SMLS in the morning, and our staff members bring across the first group of boys at 8:15 and then subsequently at 8:30 a.m. In the afternoon, SMLS staff members bring the Sisters of Lynbrook boys over to Lynbrook so that their parents may pick up in one location, thus reducing the traffic congestion. At these times, we are moving a large number of students across the street. When we had the crossing guard on Lynbrook, this was a much safer undertaking. Lynbrook parents have been very happy with the strategies we've put in place to safely move the boys and girls between schools in large groups under staff supervision. However, there remains one very large risk factor on Lynbrook Road, and that is the noticeable absence of a crossing guard. Since the crossing guard retired and a replacement has not been found, we have had endless parent complaints about the safety of the students who independently cross the road. This perspective has been formed out of concern for the students and also from fear as parents and drivers that they will miss seeing a child crossing when no crossing guard is present, and no one wants a tragedy to occur. So I have shared with you some brochures of the parking lot and the situation, or how it looks like between both schools. So I saw the crossing guard. I'm happy to put this up on the screen. So here's the photo. The brochures that you have are labeled. So this picture I've included for you shows the placement of the crosswalk on Lynbrook Road. Yeah, press play, thank you. You can see that it is situated between the main entrance to St. Mildred's, the bus lane, and Lynbrook's entrance. As you may imagine, with a current enrollment between the 2 schools of almost 700 children and a maximum capacity of 805, this is a busy location during peak times. Due to our location in southeast Oakville, both Lynbrook and SMLS have a large percentage of students who walk or bike to school. And the weather is just getting nice, and you can see from our photo here, okay, that we have a lot of eager boys who are willing to ride their bikes to school. And we can also add skateboards. And Mayor Burton, you mentioned technology improving with drones. If I skip to one of the next photos here, here we have hoverboards. And we have quite a few students who actually use hoverboards as their mode of transportation to get to school. So the previous photo had these cool bike racks, and we installed related storage areas to motivate the boys to bike, to skateboard, and in this case, hoverboard to school. And it's our duty to ensure that we are doing what we can to help keep them safe while doing so. So I'd like to mention that we have brought traffic safety to our parent population on many occasions. I've also included 2 hard copies of letters in those brochures, and here's just a snapshot of those. Both letters mention the importance of safe driving and the adherence to our parking lot guidelines. The letter dated January 5th outlines the Making Ontario's Roads Safer Act. Without the crossing guard, there is no one on Lynbrook Road to monitor that this act is being followed to ensure pedestrian safety. And it's also my understanding that the crossing guard at SMLS has been grandfathered. Consequently, SMLS needs to be treated like any other school being considered for a crossing guard. We are not asking that a guard be taken from another school, although I would like to point out that many locations actually have 2 guards. Instead, we are asking that Lynbrook and SMLS be fairly considered when a crossing guard does become available. The children using the crosswalk are all local community children whose parents pay taxes. When compared to the local public schools, the difference between us is that we are willing to pay for this crossing guard, and the amount equals approximately $13,000 per year. This is money we are willing to put forth in an effort to keep the neighbors and school children safe. So we definitely encourage you to visit our school between 8 and 8:45 when traffic is not traffic, but when there's a lot of now students walking back and forth, to come and see the number of students who commute, walking, biking, skateboarding, and hovering. I wasn't sure if hovering was the right word. It almost sounds like levitating, but if they're hoverboarding. We believe that the local citizens who use Lynbrook Road to commute or cross the road would find a guard a welcome addition to community safety. And finally, we ask that we please be considered fairly for a crossing guard when one becomes available. We are hoping for a crossing guard before it becomes too late. It's a much better policy to be proactive than reactive. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Councillor Hutchins has a question for you.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. How many kids are at the schools currently, and how many do you project, and what sort of times?
So currently at Lynbrook, we have 132 students with a projection for about 160 in the fall. Our capacity will be 180 students. Across the street, I can't speak to their exact numbers right now. Based on their projections, there are about 500 students, 500 girls right now, and the capacity for both will be, you're looking at about 700 children in the fall with a capacity of 805.
Okay, so we're talking 800 odd students in the coming year between the two schools.
Maybe not 800 in the coming year, but realistically, so for the fall, you're looking at about 650 boys and girls.
650, that's a lot of kids to...
It's a lot of kids. And this is, this is Southeast Oakville, so there are a few schools in that area. So we have traffic. We obviously oversee the Lynbrook Parkette that has a crosswalk, and I see numerous public school kids using both areas because we're often kind of running traffic between both, and they're high school students, Oakville Trafalgar students who ride down Lynbrook Road, bike lanes, and the local public schools. So these are just our two schools that use this crosswalk. But I'd say in addition, I'm not going to speculate on the exact number, but there are quite a substantial amount of other students as well.
Okay, and I heard you say that actually the two schools would be paying for this guard?
Correct.
So there is no public taxes going into it?
Correct.
All you need is somebody to be there, selected by us. So then...
That's it.
I see.
That's all that we ask.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Giddings and then Councillor Adams.
Thanks for coming out, and
Councillor.
thank you for the package. I
welcome.
receive those on an ongoing basis as you work with the school parent community to keep everybody safe. You mentioned some of the items that St. Mildred's and Lynbrook do together.
Yes.
Just for the benefit of the rest of the councillors at the table, that's part of a binding agreement, the three-party agreement between the town and the two schools, correct?
Correct.
And staggered start times and shared buses and all that. And through the town, you have to do a traffic study each and every year, correct?
Correct.
As part of that agreement?
Yes.
A question, I guess, for staff. The delegation talked about being grandfathered. I'm curious, is that the three-party agreement, the belief in terms of being grandfathered?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's only one school that's actually grandfathered that's private.
And is that Lynbrook or St. Mildred's?
No.
Okay, so for clarification, I take it it's the legal agreement that you're referring to in terms of the requisite that the town had that you have a crossing guard there.
Correct. Well, so Lynbrook School used to be, of course, be a public school. So we're
Right.
not familiar necessarily with their Halton District School Board policies. I'm assuming that they would have had a crossing guard in place. However, in speaking with St. Mildred's and Chris White and their CFO, Leslie Goodfellow, they have mentioned that they always, as soon as there was availability of a crossing guard, they had crossing guard from the town of Oakville. So the terminology that they shared with me was that it was grandfathered in.
All right, Commissioner Bell, can you, it's through the town that we staff the crossings and perform the warrants. I believe you had a look at the report in terms of the percentages and the warranted numbers and so on?
Yes.
Okay. that procedure, it talks about, or the agreement, a town crossing guard will assist Lynbrook staff and that, staff and students, and that's what you're anxiously waiting for. How long's it been since you haven't had a guard?
So he was with us. The crossing guard's name was Richard, I believe. The students were very fond of him. He retired, I want to say the winter or the spring of 2015. So it's been a little bit over a year that we've been trying to facilitate and get a crossing guard between both schools.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you giving us some of the background and so forth. I know we had great discussions when the school was opening up there. So you know that we've been trying to find a guard for the location. Can you tell us, have you been putting out the word to your parent community, letting them know that we've been seeking a guard, and if they have somebody that they could send our way in terms of a viable candidate for us to consider, that we would appreciate that? Has there been that kind of discussion?
We've not put forth any inquiries into the parent community. I think with the permission of the town that this would move ahead, that'd be definitely a communication that from both schools that we would put out there to know if they have someone in their inner circle that would be willing to do this. We would be happy to do that. Communication definitely is ongoing. It's more, as I mentioned, in the form of parent complaints, usually directed at me. I mean, I can cite 2 examples in terms of most recent ones. We have a lot of mothers and fathers who are starting to allow their, in my particular case, their sons to walk to school. But what they do is they allow their sons to walk to school, and they're probably a good 50 meters behind them, just making sure that they're safe and walking. So 2 weeks ago, a mother with an intermediate son in my at Lynbrook was walking and saw him. I guess the universal gesture for crossing is you lean forward to kind of notify cars that you're going to cross. And she said he did this at least 4 or 5 occasions, and cars were just flying on Lynbrook Road and not stopping. And he would lean, and so this really upset her because she's trying to essentially instill independence and responsibility in him, but other people aren't giving him that same courtesy. So that's just one story. Another story this morning, another complaint or making me aware was a mom with a stroller, 2 dogs, walking her other son to school, doing the same thing, trying to cross, and cars were just not stopping. And just last minute, because they don't see, they don't pay attention, especially first thing in the morning. So those types of things are usually what I hear first. But we have a pretty responsive parent community, a very involved parent community. So if we were to put out that communication, potentially we would get someone. But if not, then I'm hoping the town could help with that.
Well, thank you very much. You might recognize that we've got a number of crossing guard locations, and we've got a number that haven't been staffed, and we've had trouble getting staffing at a number of locations. And so we're out trying to find local candidates to fit all those spots. And you've got a legitimate spot here that appears that needs to get filled. We have other ones elsewhere across town that also need to get filled. And so if there are community members out there who are ready and willing to take on those kinds of positions, then we would like to know about those possible candidates, because ultimately that's how we're going to fill these positions.
Absolutely. I mean, it was our understanding that the process had to be formalized through the Town of Oakville's training program.
Of course.
Right, so we would find a candidate and then direct them towards the program.
That's right.
Okay.
It's not to say that, that you're doing the hiring and all that kind of stuff. And the same thing goes for all of our other getting close to 100 spots.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's the town that's doing the hiring, but we're looking for candidates. And how you find that candidate, word of mouth often is a good way of finding a good candidate. And yes, they have to apply like everybody else. But at the end of the day, how do you get them in the door?
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams, for your work tonight as a recruiter. Might be the most constructive thing we have so far on this topic. Any other questions? Councillor Elgar.
Actually, my question is of staff, and it has to do with our legal liability related to the conditions, the numerous conditions we put on Lynbrook School, and one of them was related to they had to have a crossing guard, and yet they can't have a crossing guard. They make more than 100% of the warrants. What is our something happens. We have told Lynbrook they have to have a crossing guard. They don't have a crossing guard. Where do we stand in that area?
Mr. Principal, I'm going to let you stand down. You don't need to continue there.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very
and
much for
councilors.
your
Thank you.
information and your time.
Yes, through you, Mayor Burton, under the provisions of the three-party agreement, Lynbrook is responsible for the safe crossing of boys at that location, and the costs are to be shared between Lynbrook and St. Mildred. But any issue of liability always takes into account the ability of the municipality to fund the resources that are necessary. So any action, any claim will always weigh how the municipality is addressing that concern. And in this case, you have a number of locations, as Councillor Adams has pointed out, and the municipality is approaching that problem in a rational way to try and address the gap. And so the courts will always look at how the municipality is addressing the problem of scarce resources and weighs that.
I appreciate that. So it's the municipality that is on the hook, basically, if that happens. I appreciate that. It's not Lynbrook who, in our tri-party agreement, it's nothing they can do.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I wasn't meaning to say that the municipality is on the hook. I understood your question to be, what is the municipality's liability? And my response is that any issue of responsibility weighs the policy decisions of the municipality in the face of scarce resources. And as long as we can demonstrate that we are addressing the problem fairly to the whole community, that will weigh appropriately in the court's minds.
No, I thank you for that, 'cause that clarifies it.
Thank you, Councillor. All right, then that's the last of the registered delegations, and we can turn now to the standing committee reports. And Council, I've been asked by several of you to separate item number 5 from community services, and I'd like to give each of you credit in the order that you asked me. Councillor Giddings, Councillor Elgar, and Councillor Hutchins. It only takes one, so you're triply guaranteed that item number 5 is separated. Is there any interest in separating any other item? I don't see any. Could I see a mover and seconder for the balance? Councillor O'Meara, Councillor Duddeck, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? The balance of the reports are adopted. Councillor Giddings, since you asked first, you can have first go at the separated item 5.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Question for staff, I guess. We went through this extensively at committee and again this evening. I know that we have 8, if they meet the warrant, they meet the warrant, but we have 8 locations that are over 100%. Are they all staffed, save for Lynbrook and St. Mildred's?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, they're not.
So a number of the other locations are without?
They're still vacant. However, I would like to remind council that at a previous CSC committee meeting, there was a report that came forward and was presented to the committee that spoke to new strategies that we wanted to put in place in order to recruit more effectively.
And if the motion that was passed at CSC goes through, that will have the effect of freeing up some of the current crossing guards, will it not?
If you change the warrant level, yes, it will.
So that will free up some that may or may not be looking for similar employment.
That would be correct.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Elgar and then Councillor Hutchins.
My concern was actually the warrant levels. What the staff were proposing, and it was actually moved, was to change the warrants from a 20% to a 30%. And I will not be supporting that portion of the motion. And I also feel we have to really, but I also feel there's something that we have to do where the warrants are over 100%, and we have to take action sooner rather than later based on what I've learned. Now, I would like to put that something maybe stronger in the motion at CSC related to over if they're meeting the 100%. They should have, they have to have a guard.
Councillor, could you perhaps draft something on the handy drafting form that every councillor has while we turn to Councillor Hutchins? Councillor Hutchins?
Well, I was basically going to make a motion on it as well, so if I can give you my motion, if that's part of your, Mr. Councillor Elgar.
Councillor Hutchins, you have the floor, and it would be perfectly in order for you to share with council your proposed wording, and I'm sure that the 13 of us will work something out here.
Okay. My proposal was along those sort of lines to make it sort of mandatory to have crossing guards, particularly on the higher priority warranted schools throughout Oakville. So my motion was, since all school crossing guards are warranted and are therefore prioritized, to have staff ensure that all highest priority school crossings have guards for each school year. So basically, it's up to the staff to find the resources and to put in more resources if necessary to make sure that those highest priority crossing guards are filled.
Okay, so from a procedure perspective, if you're going to change the intent of the committee's recommendation, then you basically ought to, we ought to call the vote on it and defeat it if that's the will of council, and then substitute a new motion. If, on the other hand, your intent is to add to, if you're not in conflict with the committee's decision and you want to supplement it, then an amendment would be your way to proceed. Councillor Elgar has declared that he doesn't support the change in warrants, so at least for that part, he will want to separate from the committee recommendation the warrant piece and vote the warrant piece up or down separately. And then as for other things, I think I'd like to hear from the other committee members of CSC if Councillor Hutchins' motion is additive or contrary. I saw a hand over here, Councillor Duddick, and then Councillor Adams.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I concur with Councillor Elgar and in regards to the 20 versus the 30% threshold, so I will not be supporting that. In terms of the other, what is it exactly that Councillor Hutchins, did you provide a motion?
Yes, he said that he wants to direct staff that the crossing guard locations that fully meet the warrant must be staffed.
It's not in conflict the way I want it with what staff is going along with.
All right.
It's just
so that if we agree on that, it'll be an amendment. Councillor Adams and then Councillor Grant.
There I'm on. Do you actually have something on the floor right now or not? Okay, well, I wasn't. Well, I didn't know whether you had something on the floor or not. That wasn't clear to me. From my understanding, you don't actually have a motion on the floor. And what I would propose to do is move the recommendation from the committee subject to a change to Part 2, which is regarding the Old Abbey Lane location. And there's a memo from our staff suggesting that that location does in fact meet warrant and should go ahead. And so I would delete the number 2 from our recommendation from committee and substitute that the Old Abbey Lane at Maidstone South school crossing guard location be approved for the 2016-2017 school year. I'm assuming that the ward councillors would support that. Very good.
Let's see if one of them will give you a second.
Well, no, the committee motion only asked staff to review that location. So it's now been reviewed, and so rather than have council move a thing, asking staff to review something they've already done. Let's approve it.
All right, so there's a motion properly on the floor.
It's not quite on the floor yet because I have one more thing that I want to add to it.
Oh, well, I mistook your tone of finality for finality. Please go on.
Then to address the question of prioritization of locations, I would suggest that we also move a fifth item, that is that staff work to staff locations with higher warrant locations being staffed first, where possible.
All right, so Councillor Hutchins, that would appear to satisfy your interest, and we'll come back to the town manager in just a moment. Councillor Elgar and Councillor Lapworth, does that meet most of your concerns, except for the percentage of the warrant thing? Let's, sure, go ahead.
Just the clarification related to if they meet the full warrants, Councillor Adams. What was that motion you just read to us?
Sorry, it was that staff work to staff crossing guard locations with higher warrant levels first where possible. And I say where higher level warrant levels first because there are cases where our locations are only meeting 40%, and there are other cases where they're hitting 90%. And the 90%, I think we would all agree, should be prioritized in the grand scheme of things. And yes, if they're over 100%, then of course they should be first.
Okay, I'm fine with what he's proposing.
And I say where possible because, as you know, we have difficulty finding crossing guards who want to work at certain locations. Now, I just wanted to address the issue of the 20 and the 30%. I do support the change, and I support the change because I think it'll help us staff locations that currently we're having difficulty staffing, and that is what our management team have told us. And in addition, these are locations that no longer meet warrant. They're not at 100%, they're significantly lower. And so I don't want people to go around believing that these are cases that we're getting rid of warranted guards.
All right, so I think it's all well understood what your motion is. Is there any chance you've written this out? That's terrific. Is it, having regard to engineer handwriting, is it suitable for the overhead? All right, well, while the town manager adds his information, why don't you see to that? Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor Burton, and to the council. I mean, the issue of crossing guards, staffing levels has been ongoing for as long as I've had crossing guards, which was at least 30 some odd years of my career. And part of that, and this is not unique to Oakville, when you look at many, especially the Western GTA municipalities, it is a recruitment issue, and it is difficult to find the people to serve these. It's not a budget issue at all in terms of our overall budget. And as Ms. Bell was indicating, we are looking at, and we come to you with some strategies, we need to employ them. In terms of, and I sincerely appreciate where council's coming from on those highest levels of warrants to staff them, but on that issue, I'd like you to refer that part of the recommendation back to staff, because we want to look at the implications, and in some cases that could prove quite problematic on short-term basis. So if you give a blanket direction to cover all the highest warrants, logistically that may be a problem. So I'd like to look at the practicality of that so that we make sure that we can meet council's direction, or under what basis we can meet that direction. Because if you said, cover all those crossing guards no matter what, as I said to my colleague here, he and I may have to get a paddle once in a while and go out and man a crossing station, taking that to an extreme.
So, Mr.
But that
Green,
is my concern. I would like that
on behalf of council,
combated.
could I ask you if we have a bylaw that I call the impossibility bylaw to protect you. Would that not be sufficient to save you from the difficulty that you're asking us to solve by just sending it back to you first?
Well, I want to make sure that we can meet an expectation we're trying to put here. So this is me saying to council, I understand what you're looking for, and I want to make sure whatever it is we put in place, we can meet that expectation of staff.
All right, I have a solution for everyone then. So, Mr. Green, let me ask clerks to put this up, and then everyone can read it. And in the item that you're referring to, I think you actually are given all the latitude anybody could want. And I'll just read it, that staff work to staff crossing guard locations with higher warrant levels first where possible. So I think your concern is actually met. However, so we have procedurally a couple of things before us. As I understand, Councillor Adams is moving the CSC report and adding these two amendments to it, correct?
That's correct.
We'll get there, we'll get there.
And if somebody wished to refer Part 5 to staff for consideration, that's fine, the rest can stand. Otherwise, item 5 could be passed subject, I think it covers, as you said, staff's concern about
Yes, that's right.
whether they can do it or not.
All right, so so let's just be clear first, parliamentary style. What are we doing? The reported recommendation from CSC and these two additions are on the floor, moved by Councillor Adams, and they require a second if they're going to go anywhere. Councillor Hutchins has provided the second. Councillor Elgar has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, since I've learned tonight that our Mr. Green has been involved with crossing guards for 30-some years, I was wondering if he could explain to me why for so many years it's always been the 20% warrant. That has been in all of the crossing guard bylaws or whatever of what the town will do related to having a crossing guard. Why was the threshold 20%?
To some degree, I would say it was a overly cautious warrant that was put in place many years ago, when actually the recruitment of guards was a much easier item, and with the parents that would come with schools opening, looking for the interest of their children, that threshold was kept fairly low, because recruitment and the ability to manage the program was fairly achievable. And again, it was sort of like stop signs at one time. And there was as Councillor Oliver, former Councillor Oliver would often talk about, the political stop sign. Well, you have some cases a political warrant when it comes to school crossing guards as well. It's a fairly low threshold. But it's a threshold that the town was able to commit to in terms of resources and budgeting. What's happening is your ability to have the people in place to cover such a low threshold is problematic.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Councillor Duddeck.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if staff have this, but what are the neighboring municipalities' thresholds? Do we know that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a Made-in-Oakville formula. Each municipality approaches how they assign crossing guards with their own unique formula and what they deem to be critical criteria.
All right, so Councillor Robinson.
Well, Your Worship, I just want to clarify that the motion that came out of CSC still remains with point number 4 that we passed at CSC. That hasn't been changed.
Nothing's been changed yet. The opportunity to do that is about to occur, though. So the full motion is all of the CSC report, unchanged, except that number 2 now reads this way.
Right.
and number 5 is added. So number 4 hasn't been touched yet.
Thank you.
Now, I still understand Councillor Duddick and Councillor Elgar to wish the warrant level of 30% to be separated to be voted on first. So the question before us, I'm sorry, Councillor Grant?
Sorry, I got skipped a couple times, so I thought I'd start waving my hands.
Please let me use this chance to mention that I cannot see you from here.
It's okay. Actually, I'm a lot bigger than I used to be. So back in March, we came together, we came up with an agreement to try and, at CSC, to recruit more crossing guards. Then one report went by, another one went by, and at this one, we decided that we're going to start futzing with the program without even knowing what the results are from trying to recruit crossing guards. So my concern is that when we start trying to insert ourselves into, I think we need to kind of stick with what we've had that worked for the most part. And then once we see, I mean, I would agree certainly with the new number 2, because we've received from staff that that is an important issue. I have a concern with number 5, would like to refer that to staff, just because again, I hate putting numbers on things. I mean, parents at schools who meet a 60% warrant probably love their kids just as much as those who have a 100% warrant. So I see that there's where possible that gives us wiggle room. I'd still like to throw that back to staff because again, we do have a new recruitment process in place that hasn't been tested yet. So that's just my thoughts on all of this.
All right, Councillor Grant, it's always in order to move referral of all or part of a thing, and that takes precedence over all other business. Is there and I understand you to have moved referral of the proposed item 5 to staff, is that correct? Yes. We need a seconder for Councillor Grant. Councillor Knoll has seconded you. All those in favor of referring number 5 to staff, raise your hands. All those against referring it to staff. The referral motion fails. I'm sorry about that, Councillor. Now, we're separating, unless people have other things to do, we are separating out the 30%, 20% warrant question, and we are and what's before you is to vote to approve the 30%. So if you're against the 30%, you have to defeat the 30%, and then you can substitute 20. Is everybody clear? So I'm going to call a vote if you're for 30% or against 30%. Everyone clear? All those in favor of the change to 30%, raise your hands. Those who are against 30%, raise your hands. I count 7 to 6. Does anybody, and therefore the 30% fails. Does anyone disagree with my count? It's a close vote, so I thought I would ask. I'm not surprised. Now, Kathy, I knew you'd approve of that count. All right. Will anyone move 20%? As Councillor Elgar and seconded by Councillor Duddick. All those in favor of the proposal for 20%? Councillor Elgar? Councillor Adams?
You don't need to move anything because that is the current policy.
All right. Thank you very much. Then we won't move anything. We'll just stick with the current policy. Then that means we can move to the main motion.
Separate number 5, please.
Separate number 5. Well, we actually just tried and failed on number 5, right?
I can still separate it though.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So we will vote separately on item number 5. All those in favor of item number 5, please raise your hands. All those against item 5. I declare item 5 carried in a close vote. Now, to the rest of the motion, everyone ready for that? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hands. All those opposed, and that motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Look what great work you did there. So now that completes the standing committees, and it brings us to our first consent item. And although it's a consent item, and normally we wouldn't discuss it, I just think this is a wonderful opportunity to remind you that In the, last month, in the visit of the large urban mayors to Ottawa, in our meeting with the Prime Minister telling us that this is Canada and better is always possible, he agreed that he would create a new forum, a four-sided table, he called it, where the federal government and the provinces would not just meet with each other, which we will think of as a two-sided table for this discussion, but he promised to add to this the Aboriginal peoples of Canada and the municipalities, so that all of the partners in Confederation would have an opportunity to participate in national federal conversations. And for that reason, I think it's very timely and appropriate for us to be recognizing National Aboriginal Day here with item number 1 on our agenda. And I thought it would be an appropriate thing to do to ask for you to vote on this by recorded vote. And I would ask all those in favor of the resolution to rise to be named. Councillor Lischina, Councillor Adams, Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Lepworth, Councillor Elgar, Mayor Burton, Councillor Hutchins, Councillor Giddings, Councillor Chisholm, Councillor Dudek, Councillor Robinson, and Councillor O'Meara. Thank you all. I appreciate that. And I need I need to remember now who was the mover and seconder. Don't be shy. Councillor Grant and Councillor Lischina, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Discussion item 2, we need to change the recommendation from that the presentation, in item number 1 where it says the presentation, that it should read that the report by Commissioner Gord Lalonde be received. And item 2 would be as written, and item 3 and item 4. May I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Dudek is the mover, Councillor Hutchins is the seconder. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and they are adopted. That brings us to the ward boundary change item. And here staff are looking for council to provide direction. Councillor Knoll, do you want to start?
Your Worship, I just wondered if it would be appropriate if we could have a few minutes from staff on this before we get into a motion. Is that?
You certainly can.
Just to do a bit of a recap as to where we've been and where we are right now.
Certainly.
And then, yes, I do have a motion when the time's appropriate.
All right. Ms. Gaglione, welcome. Council looks forward to its education on this point, or reminders.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Before you tonight, we have the ward boundary change. We have previously done ward boundaries in 2006 and 2010. In 2012, the previous council approved a ward boundary 7-ward option, which is in the report as option 7B, for which, as I said, was approved. It's Appendix A. Since that time, council directed staff to go back and review and see if they could look at other options for potential 7-ward boundaries, and staff has done that, keeping within mind the 25 percentile range for the population estimations using the best planning estimates. We have option 1, and I'm not going to go into detail around the maps tonight. Our options in the report for council to either go with the approved option 7B or to refer staff to go to public meeting on looking at revised options and potential options for another 7-ward boundary. And I would be happy to answer any questions if I can on that.
I wonder if you want to just, for the sake of completeness, show option 2. Thank you.
Option 2 and option 3.
And Councillor Elgar has a question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Could you tell us what numbers we have in our wards, current wards right now by ward?
I don't have a current Ward 6 map with the estimated populations to give you those numbers this evening.
Okay, do you have the numbers that we had during the last election?
The numbers we had during the last election are electoral population numbers. They're not population numbers.
Okay.
So they wouldn't be the same.
So we don't have any numbers of where we stand at all, I guess, huh?
With regards to your Ward 1 was approximately 20,000, and Ward 4 is more than double the amount of Ward 1. It was 43,000 if I remember correctly. I can get you exact numbers for all the wards if you would like that and get that information to council, but I don't have it here this evening.
Now, if I look at the new Ward 4, wait a minute, this is option 3. If you go to option 2, yes, thank you. That bite out of Ward 4 on the southeast side, do you have an estimate of what the numbers are?
Approximately 7,000.
7,000 people. Okay, I thank you for that. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Gaglione. And,
I just wondered, like, what is the drop dead date that we have to make the decisions going forward for the election in fall of 2018?
If you were just doing a ward boundary without the electoral, we currently have legislation changes, and there'll be a report coming forward on the proposed amendments to the Municipal Elections Act. There's also a regional representation report coming forward with that change. So not to have it done before the end of this year makes it problematic to get everything done in time for the 2018 election, because there are timelines proposed in the new legislation that are due next year, early in the year.
Okay, so it has to be done by the year end. Now, I thought I read in the report you were going to take whatever option is picked this evening out to the public?
Should council direct staff to take the revised options back for public input? Because they haven't, option 7B was out for public input, whereas the other options have not been out for public input at this point.
But what I'm wondering is exactly, when are we going to do the public input? Like, I
June.
thought I read in the report.
June.
Exactly. It was going to be like, so you got June, July, August, or June, when an awful lot of things are on people's plate regarding to people that live. Yeah, I know at least in Ward 4, where a lot of them have children, and they're all school things and proms and all kinds of things. Is it possible to do it, like in September, and still meet the deadline, instead of doing it during the summer? Like I didn't just want to know, like, is that a possibility? As long as we approve it by end of November, and the public cannot say, well, you know, you're doing it in one of the busiest months we have with summer, and with the nice weather coming also.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, yes, it's possible to do. It was just in relation to the criteria for getting your regional representation, your ward boundaries, and your increase in town council and everything done. It was just that order of business would be easier to have the public information meetings in June, and then use September to come back with options for council to speak to at that time.
Okay, well, we'll see what
But
the
it is
motion is.
possible to
Okay,
do
I
it in
appreciate that.
September.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
all right. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. With respect to the various options that are before us, these are generally pretty similar in terms of the way they've divided things up. I mean, obviously, they're meeting the 25% requirement, et cetera, but even the map is fairly similar. There's only slight variations between each. Is it safe to say that they basically reflect, to a large extent, the outcome of the public consultation that happened in 2012? Would that be a reasonable statement?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that would be a reasonable statement.
Is there any way we can get that feedback turned down, because that's really hard to talk through? Turn off my mic? Thank you, Commissioner. I think I was censored, Mr. Mayor. Just kidding. I'm still getting an echo. That's better. Okay, the 2012 report came out, and I have the numbers from 2012 that were reported in terms of where the existing wards would be in 2016. And I'm going to, with your indulgence, I'll read those out for the sake of, because Councillor Elgar asked the question. So in 2016, in 2012, the 2016 projections for population for population were Ward 1, 27,127, Ward 2, 34,789, Ward 3, 29,507, Ward 4, I'm sorry, this isn't the right one. I apologize. I've rejigged my papers here. Sorry, I'll start again. Ward 1, 21,962, Ward 2, 21,580, Ward 3, 29,507, Ward 4, 46,527, and the winner for largest population, Ward 5, 51,243, and Ward 6, 27,384. So that, just put that on the record for the sake of that discussion. Now, having read that into the record, is there anything to believe, is there anything to suggest that those numbers were not achieved for 2016? I mean, these were projections in 2012. Would it be safe to say that we've reasonably reached these numbers at this point?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not able to answer that question for you in terms of what our population is, using the best planning estimates, which we use for all of our estimations. That's the only way.
What's the total, Councillor?
The total population is 198,203.
So the last report we had on population said that we had a slow start and we were likely around 191. So close.
Yeah, it is close, yeah. Okay, so based on that information, and based on the fact that 2012, we generally, we did a consultation. How widely subscribed was that consultation? Did we have a lot of participation on the part of the public?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we didn't have a huge amount, but we did do a survey that was responded to on the website, and we did have people come and attend our public information sessions, and we did have ratepayer groups represented that spoke to council.
Okay, and so we've generally done a fairly significant consultation then in 2012. And the difference between 2012 and today is the fact that we now have the regional agreement for the 7th seat. That's essentially what's happened between then and today.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't currently have the agreement. It's pending, but it's in process.
Council has approved the notion, and we're waiting for the final approval from the ministry. Is that what it is?
And then the region will pass a bylaw, and then it will come back to council for another approval.
Okay. So, Your Worship, on that basis, I mean, we've spent a lot of time on this, and I think each one of us have, looked at our own wards and reflected, the nature of the communities and tried to figure out exactly how this works in terms of representation and workload. And I mean, part of that, I believe part of the 2012 study included a workloads survey. We've also had our own experience detailing, or our own experience with dealing with the workload. And I'm pretty confident today, I'd like to float a proposal to at least get us talking at this point. And the proposal is for option 3. So I would move that option 3 be adopted as the chosen. Sorry, option 2. I'm confused by this ABC 1, 2, 3 thing. So let me just verify that I'm. Sorry, option 2. Yes, it is option 2. Yeah, that's option 2. So the one that's on the screen, I move that we approve option 2, subject to the public consultation that will occur through the public hearing or the public meeting that takes place with respect to the bylaw approval. So what I'm suggesting is that we don't necessarily go out for a whole new round of public consultations and start all over again, but that we use the subsequent meeting or the meeting that will take place to actually approve a bylaw, to use that as our public input session for the approval of this final outcome as the ward distribution. So that's essentially what I'm proposing, and I would look for a seconder and any feedback on that.
Thank you, Councillor Knoll. Is there a seconder? Councillor Duddeck seconds it. Discussion?
Sorry, thank you. I'm I'm also in favor of that option as well. I just would like to add a note that kind of does get overlooked from time to time. There are 4 new councillors on this council who weren't a part of these discussions, and we've only been here for some of us less than a matter of months. So, you know, as part of our due diligence as well, and our workload and our review, we haven't had the time to really digest what the options were, what the conversations were at the table. So if there's any way we might be able to get some assistance as well, or even a little more personalized communication with our residents, that would help us sort of get a quick up-to-speed grasp on this thing, I think that would be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll.
Your Worship, I have a suggestion for that as well, and I apologize I didn't mention it. So in addition to the public consultation that would occur through the bylaw approval process, I want to further go on, and I can write this down if you want me to actually pen this. I should have done that in advance. I'm suggesting too that staff between now and the time of that meeting conduct a public information and councillor information, I guess, campaign so that people are aware of the fact this is coming, explaining the nature of the representational change, et cetera, so it's not simply just showing up on an agenda and being left for us to vote on. I'd like to see press release, et cetera. So a communication, so A, option 2, B, public consultation through the bylaw process, and C, a public information a campaign to bring the public as well as councillors online with exactly what it is we're proposing here. And I'm going to jot that out for you right now.
Okay, that's very good. Councillor Dudek, are you still seconding that? Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Chisholm.
What's your time frame, Councillor Knoll, with respect to the process and the communication piece, through your worship, sorry?
Your Worship, as has been my practice, I don't generally like to bind staff in terms of timing. I like to, and you would appreciate that, Councillor, former staff member Chisholm. I would prefer to allow staff to determine their own needs in terms of their workload, et cetera. But I would ask, you know, as a matter of just courtesy, to get it done as quickly as possible in light of the complicity of this entire exercise, to get it communicated and get the staff ready to be able to actually execute an election in 2018.
All right then. Any others? Shall I put the question? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that is carried. And thank you, Council. I think it's appropriate and good that it was unanimous because it is a fundamental thing. Now, that brings us to item number 4, the request to amend provincial policy on autism IBI therapy. And this was moved by me and seconded by Councillor Chisholm at the May 2nd meeting. And we've had a lot of new information since then. And Councillor Mira, I understand that you have perhaps some additional thoughts on this.
I do, Your Worship, and I know they're not here anymore, but I would like to thank the delegates who came to speak to us today, and the residents who we've heard from through other means. It's always a touchy discussion when we talk about something that has such a human impact to the people who are involved with it, and we hear how they struggle with it on a day-to-day basis. The first thing I did when you brought this forward is I myself wanted more information, and I had a very lengthy conversation with the CEO of Aranoak Kids, who is the province's largest provider of autism services. Over 9,000 families they serve, and they serve close to 1,600 within the confines of the Halton region and the town of Oakville. And, you know, the one thing that Ms. Futrell said to me, she said, you know, it is such a difficult decision to make. We tend to leave it to the clinical experts and the clinicians. She said it'd be like me trying to make a decision about which technique is better for heart surgery, and sometimes it's very difficult to make. So with that, I was hoping my council colleagues might find a couple of changes that I would like to put forward to the resolution, which sort of bring a little bit more emphasis to the communication side of things and how the province has done this. I think we can all agree there's been some struggle on that, but also to let the individual families and delegates know that, when they have needs and when they have concerns, that we're here to listen and address those. But in the same capacity, we're 13 politicians and elected officials around this table, and reading some of the resumes of the individuals who are on the autism spectrum disorder expert committee, I would definitely yield to some of their profession. So if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind reading out the amendment here. So we would go to the fourth whereas, and I would have it read, whereas the province of Ontario has announced it intends to collapse all IBI services into the ABA stream and provide a one-time payment to assist with transition services, leaving many families feeling they have been left behind. And then we're going to skip down to the therefore, requesting the province to, on the first item, read, ensure that families on the current IBI wait list that the level of intervention their child needs will be provided through the transition and under the new delivery model. Item number 2, to read, ensure that all children are assessed equally for the level of intensive therapy they need regardless of age. And then number 4, to read, consider a transitory direct funding offering model to accompany the current direct service offering model.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Meara, and I think those are wonderful changes, and I support them fully. Councillor Chisholm, would you support those? Council, would you like them written out, or would you like the councillor to provide them to the clerk afterwards? That is, do you want them on the screen, I meant to say. I have never seen Councillor O'Meara's handwriting, so I was afraid to characterize it.
They're in typed print with a grammatical change because saying the province twice was redundant.
Well, you might put it up then. Sorry. I believe that this, we already voted that. Okay. So that's for your minutes. Okay, so again, as a mover of the motion, and on behalf of my staff who drafted it in consultation with the autism families concerned, I think this speaks eloquently and positively to their concerns, and I have no trouble supporting these changes, and I thank the councillor for bringing such constructive ideas forward. Councillor Knoll.
Do you mind if I just ask a question with respect to a couple of the comments that were made by the delegation? Through you, Your Worship, the delegation expressed concern, and I've agreed to take it back to the library board at least, that that there are some concerns around the sensitivity of staff and even our facilities in terms of sensory issues. And I wanted to get staff's feedback on that. I do know that this is a big issue for family members, both adults and children with autism. I take their comment very seriously because I'm aware of these kind of scenarios. In fact, in my own private business, I had a family express serious concern about the new hand dryers that we've installed, and I know that those are becoming the norm now. So little things like that that maybe we don't think of that, in fact, are having a detrimental impact on members of our community that are coping with these sensory issues. So through you to the staff, could you comment on that feedback that was given and perhaps propose ideas as to how we might be able to pursue that further? Or do you have an answer?
Councillor, before we go to staff on that, this is so important in terms of our ability to meet the needs of our residents, and the remarks were actually fairly wide-ranging on this front. I wonder if you would prefer to look for a seconder to do a request for report tonight to cover off how we deal with these and other disabled people.
Done.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Hutchins? Councillor Grant beat you to it.
Would you like the wording that I proposed earlier for that? Or?
Why don't we deal with this
under
first?
Reports, under request for reports.
Under request
gotcha.
for reports.
Thank you.
And actually, there's nothing to stop us from taking it up out of order after we do this, because we're practically there anyway. As a matter of fact, we're there, give or take. So Is there any other discussion or question on this? Councillor Grant?
Just because it's the first blush I have of this, I'm hoping either the mover or the original people who made the motion can unpack for me how this is going to be helping the families who have had their children grow out of the wait list. I'm still haunted by the comment that there's money to be made in autism, and hearing that the money that this family will get, Sonia will get, will teach her to tie her shoes, bothers me deeply, because this child has been on a wait list for 2 years. So is there something in here that protects those people who've been, basically those children who've grown off the wait list?
Councillor O'Meara, did you perhaps mean here in your resolve number 1, ensure families who have aged out of the current IBI waitlist? Were you talking about them? Because the people on the IBI waitlist are going to get the IBI program. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy to interject the word "all" if that helps, so that encapsulates everyone. If that helps, be more specific about it. A lot of confusion has been surrounded.
I'm sorry, that was an accident.
Okay. If you're trying to tell me something, that's okay. A lot of the communication problems, from my perspective, from the province, has revolved around how far down the age spectrum ABA and what level of intervention will happen, and where IBI goes up to, and where that transition form takes over. And I just think, regardless of any of those questions, every single child who suffers anywhere on the spectrum of this should get the level of intensity they need, no matter how old they are, what age they are, what the continuum is, and that's really what I was trying to attain with this. So it doesn't matter if you're 6, if you're 2, if you're 3, if you're 4, the individual 10, 18, 19, the level of assessment that you need should be delivered. So that was the intention. So I hope it maybe by adding a word, it could be captured.
So looking at your screen, are you comfortable with this small change where we change the word "on" to "leaving"?
Yeah, that doesn't make actual sense, actually. Ensure families leaving the current IBI wait list. I would just maybe add ensure all families on IBI wait list.
See, the issue is the families that have been aged off the IBI list. The people that are on the IBI list are getting terrific treatment. It's the few thousand that are disappearing that's the issue.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, it encapsulates, I think, what we're going for. So
good. So there we are. And if we're satisfied with that, Councillor Duddick is not satisfied with that.
No, I'm not. Again, I think similar to what Councillor Grant had raised, and I know from speaking to people who deliver services for autistic children, the biggest problem they seem to face is being on a wait list just to be identified, not even to provide the service. So if your child is, say, 4, and they're on a wait list for 3 years to get identified, bingo, they're beyond it, you know?
Thank you, Councillor. I don't actually remember us having any, I mean, that's a new angle to me. Councillor Lischina?
I thought that was clarified in my question to that first delegation regarding anyone who's on the wait list currently has actually been assessed and identified to require the IBI services. So it's a matter of them reaching that five year where they're taken off the list. So they've actually been identified already, and it's a matter of receiving the treatment. So when I look at this amendment to it, that's not clear in this to me, and I certainly concur with Councillor Grant. I understand that anybody from now on is going to understand the new rules. But everybody who's been waiting for a year or 2 or potentially 3 up until now to be kicked off and receive the $8,000. And also my understanding is now that there's going to be a 2-year wait for the next round to come through. That's what sort of worries me.
So I assure you that I believe that the wording that we now have covers what we set out to cover, which was the children that are aging out of the list, and we're calling that leaving the current list rather than aging out, but just to have neutral sounding language. And I'm not sure how we could change this to make that clearer.
So they're leaving as a result of the new provincial policy? Okay, so not because they've now started to receive these treatments?
Yeah. So is everybody satisfied now? Councillor Grant.
Just one last thing, and I realize that these types of letters that we send to the province, it's like throwing a pebble at a bison, and you might get a reaction, you may not. I just feel morally it's odd that we are at this last minute changing the wording of what seemed to be a very strong statement to something that's a little more watered down. That's my only concern. I, of course, will vote to support anything that would help these children. I'm just saying that it seems very strange that we're doing this at the last minute.
Well, you know how Oakville likes to be constructive in our criticism. With that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that does carry. Thank you, Council. There are no confidential discussion items. There are no advisory committee minutes tonight, and you've had your information items circulated electronically, as well as your status of outstanding issues. We now come to new business, which is notices of motion, emergency congratulatory or condolence statements. Is there any matter here for anyone? Councillor Knoll, we're not quite at request for reports.
I actually have a report as well on air traffic issues we spoke about earlier.
Oh, you should do that in the next bit, which is regional reports and question periods.
Okay.
So there's one bit of congratulatory business to do, and that is I get to congratulate you. Because, Council, today we had a little photo opportunity and a unveiling, if you will, of bike corrals in each of our business improvement areas. And this was also Bike to Work Day. And so I'm really hoping that you'll be at least a little bit astonished when I tell you that I rode my bike where I live on near Ford Drive. And so I decided that I would take my bike to the bike corral announcement on Bronte Road, at 67 Bronte Road in front of the Taste of Columbia there. And when I looked on the Google Maps to see how feasible this expedition would be, I learned that I could, if I was a healthy young person able to do 20 kilometers an hour steadily on my bike, I could get there in 45 minutes. But I also noted that I could ride my bike for maybe 3 minutes tops to my nearest bus stop. And with a 30-minute bus ride, I could use our bike racks. Every one of our buses has one of these. And then they would drop me on Lakeshore, and I could ride my bike the rest of the way to the bike corral. And so I did. And I want you to know that not only was it a lot of fun, but I had no difficulty, and this is despite the fact that it's been 20 years since I've been on a bike. Now, I will confess that I rehearsed this morning, and I made my son go over my bike really carefully and pump up the tires really strong, and that was the only undoing of my expedition. You all know Chris Clapham, our active transportation fellow, and he was there. And we were standing there. It was a big success, and it was done. And he said, "Mr. Mayor, it sounds like you're having a flat tire. Can you hear that sudden whistle of wind coming out of it's coming out of your valve?" And he bent down, he touched it. "Oh yeah, your valve is blown." And I realized that when my son told me that 55 pounds was the most that I should put in my tires, I made a mistake when I insisted that he put 75. So I wheeled the bike back to the bus stop and put it on the bike rack, took it back on the bus, and then wheeled it home. But I had a glorious time doing it, and the weather was perfect for this misadventure. And the thing that I was most struck by, and the thing that I congratulate you for, in addition to your bike corrals, is the way you built the grid system of the buses. I was on the famous bus number 2, which when it goes around the Ford Drive and Lakeshore corner, always looks empty to the people who live there. So riding it at 2 different times during the day, I observed that it was empty around that corner. But it had steady business all the way out to Bronte and back. And I was quite struck by how useful the bus is. And so you won't be seeing me ask you to kill that bus anytime soon, I don't think. Although I was told by somebody that we have supplementary or alternative service through bus routes 4 and 11 as well to cover the end where it picks me up. So anyway, I think we have a great success there. And yes, I'm a convert to biking again. And once I get my valve fixed, I might actually try this again. The bus is terrific. It's amazing how good that bike rack is. I've never tried that before. Councillor Hutchins.
Yes, I have a question to the mayor. Were you wearing a helmet?
Yes, I was. My daughter's helmet didn't fit me, so my son grudgingly let me wear his. And by the way, his helmet was a lot cooler than her helmet. So it had lots of slots in it. So Councillor
Training
Knoll,
wheels?
Pardon?
Training wheels?
I did not have training wheels. I did the whole thing the real way. Councillor Knoll, now for something serious rather than my lighthearted effort at celebrating National Bike to Work Day.
And I actually saw a photo of you on your bike, and it was actually a 2-wheeler too, because that was probably the next question. Was it a? Anyway. Yes, thank you. And yes, turning to a serious note, as I mentioned earlier, I had an outcome of my questions already written out. So I'm presenting it as a request for report moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Grant, that staff investigate opportunities to train our staff on addressing the needs of persons with autism, and 2, to adapt facilities to be sensory friendly wherever possible, and that a report be provided to council on findings at the earliest possible opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll take that now, and then we'll go to your report on the other matter. And you have a seconder in Councillor Grant, as I understand it? Yes. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? The report is approved, and staff have a little bit of work to do, but I'm sure you can rise to that. Now, Councillor Knoll, you have, I think, good news to share, and I'm anxious to have you do it.
Thank you, Worship. First of all, just a very quick background. As you are all aware, I was appointed by the region of Halton to serve on the Citizen Environment Noise Advisory Committee at the Greater Toronto Airports Authority, or they want to be known now as Toronto Pearson, dealing with our constituents' concerns and complaints regarding air traffic noise. And when those of us in regional council really started banging our shoe on the table to get some attention of the GTAA, we asked for a couple things, and one was that we actually have a seat on the board of this committee, which up to this point Halton had not. We achieved that. The second thing we had asked for at the time was that the complaint exclusion of 10 nautical miles from the center point of the airport be extended, because other than the cemetery in Ward 6 and a touch of Joshua's Creek, nobody in Oakville up until that point in time, which was January 1st of this year, was actually, their complaints were being counted. We achieved that as well. So the exclusion zone is now eliminated. The GTAA noise office is now taking complaints and recording them and investigating where appropriate. All complaints from all citizens of Oakville and Halton region. So that's another victory that we achieved. The third thing that we've achieved is the noise, no pun intended, that citizens have created and councillors have created and the community in general have created have actually gotten the attention of NAV Canada. Both the former minister and the current minister have taken a significant interest in this. The previous minister actually ordered NAV Canada to undertake the GTAA noise mitigation study, which the current minister is supporting. And in fact, this evening and tomorrow evening, there is a presentation to members of the roundtable on the findings on the 6 possible noise mitigation measures and their next steps to potentially implement some of those. One of the other things that I, as your representative on CNAC, have been going back to achieve was to get some validation of our noise concerns. So it's not simply just by ear, it's not simply just by visual, but by scientific method of validation of the noise, and that is through the installation of a noise monitoring station here in town. And I'm very pleased to report that as of this afternoon, the Greater Toronto Airports Authority has approved the installation of a noise monitoring terminal, or NMT, in Oakville, at their earliest possible opportunity. The capital and the operating costs have been funded. It will be located approximately at the intersection of Glen Ashton and 8th Line, and it will be installed as soon as possible, certainly by the end of 2016. So what that is going to mean is that we'll actually be able to get real-time monitoring of noise at one of the apex points of the noise in the community. That's been identified as one of the worst points that noise actually impacts. And that noise monitoring will actually be live in real time on the WebTrack software. So you'll be able to actually you'll be able to sign on and see the noise measurements actually on WebTrack. So it's great. It's a great victory, I think, in our step-by-step battle, so to speak, to get some satisfaction from our friends at the GTAA, NAV Canada, and the Ministry of Transport. The other piece of really exciting news is that in addition to all this, but wait, there's more. Operators are standing by, et cetera. The NAV Canada has announced that they are going to be conducting a third-party review of noise issues in the Greater Toronto area. So it's not going to be NAV Canada now. NAV Canada is going to continue with their 6 steps, but now they're going to be contracting a third-party independent organization, a la Gatwick's recent report, to actually do an independent study on the noise issues, the complaints and the concerns, and that is going to be starting some point this fall. So we're also very excited by that.
Councillor, please don't rush over the reference to Gatwick. I think it'd help the public and some members of council if you explain a little more detail what the Gatwick matter is.
So Gatwick Airport in the United Kingdom was having similar issues with noise, again with the increase in traffic, with the larger aircraft, et cetera. And so there was a third-party study requested to actually look into that situation, and has come back with a number of recommendations. Ironically, one of the recommendations is the creation of a citizens committee like CNAC, which has already happened here, but there was a number of really good recommendations that are being reviewed now for potential implementation for Gatwick Airport. And again, it has a lot of credibility because it's being done by a third party as opposed to the airport itself, as opposed to the regulatory authority or on the part of impacted citizen groups. So that report is having huge impacts across the world of airport noise mitigation because it's the first time really there's been such a study done. We're now going to be embarking, or NAV Canada on our behalf are going to be embarking on the same type of study. I know that at CNAC last week we discussed, and I know that the GTAA has also taken a position that they're going to take, and they are going to take a total hands-off approach to this so that there's absolute credibility on the part of the work that's done. They'll be employing experts from the world of aviation and acoustics to do the analysis and present information as well as suggestions that could have a significant impact as well, and inform the noise mitigation study that's currently ongoing. So in conclusion, I just want to say that I think we've achieved a lot. There's still a lot of, there's a long way to go. We still need to, keep up the pressure in terms of making sure we remind our citizens to file their complaints. I will share with you by email, and we can put it in council information as well, the most recent statistics that were just recently sent to me this afternoon in terms of OFIL complaints, and it is quite substantial to see the validation in actual numbers of complaints, and not just simply complaints, but the number of complainants and complaints. So I think everybody's understanding that there's a very real and significant concern, and I think we're finally starting to get some traction on this issue. Again, long way to go. It's not going to get solved overnight. This doesn't mean that next week the noise will stop, but it means we've taken some great steps to potentially see some relief in the future for our citizens. I'll be attending the information session tomorrow night to hear an update from NAV Canada. I think a couple of our colleagues will be attending as well. So we're going to be hearing on the 6 initiatives as well that NAV Canada is working on. I had a bit of a preview. Some of them are very interesting, and others are probably not quite as exciting, but there certainly has been progress on that front made as well.
Thank you, Councillor Knoll, for that very welcome report. And I want to congratulate you and all the other members of the Mayor's Advisory Group on Aircraft Noise for the good work that you did over the last 2 years, almost 2 years, to help us get to this point. And all of you on the Mayor's Advisory Group, I'm sure, are glad that the report is in, the group is sunsetted, and we've handed the issue off to a very robust citizens group, the Residents Against Rango, Residents Aircraft Noise Group of Oakville. And I know I've met with them, and I think they've been very appreciative to me of the work that you all did. So I thank you for that. Are there any other requests for reports? Thank you. Could I have a mover and seconder for the bylaws as listed in the agenda? Councillor Elgar, thank you. Councillor O'Meara, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? The bylaws are adopted. That completes our agenda. It's been great working with you, and we are adjourned.